Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Wednesday. I hope you all are doing well. It is the live game review to Everton's defeat to QPR on penalties last night in the Carabao Cup. Still feels difficult to say that one. Obviously the game ended 2-2 between both sides, heading straight to a penalty shootout, and Everton were defeated 8-7 on penalties by the Championship team. But as I said yesterday, it wasn't the penalty shootout that lost Everton that game. I mean, technically it was, because we lost on penalties, but we were absolutely dreadful from minute 1 to minute 90, really. We got a little bit better in the second half, started to control the ball a little bit more, started to put our foot on the ball a little bit more in midfield. Obviously, had to rely on bringing on the likes of Abdoulaye Doucouré and Demarai Gray, which wasn't ideal whatsoever. But we weren't much better in the second half either, to be honest with you. Obviously, we went behind 1-0. Got back into the game and then went behind again for 2-1 and had to get back into the game again. And then after that, nothing really happened, did it? We weren't really getting forward. We weren't really creating chances. And, you know, I've said this a couple of times with these types of cup games. I don't really understand when a manager, whether it be Rafa Benitez or other managers previously, start with, obviously not the strongest team. I understand that. I get that. Rafa Benitez wanted to rest, the likes of Alan and Abdoulaye Doucouré and Demarai Gray for yesterday's game. I get it completely. But then when we're not performing during the cup game, which is the majority of the time, I can't remember the last time I watched Everton win a cup tie convincingly, to be honest with you. Even last season, at the start of last season, under Carlo Ancelotti, didn't really win many convincingly. We were quite poor in the majority of those games. We always seem to then bring on the players that we have obviously rested for the game. Now, I don't understand it. I'd much rather have started with a strong team, i.e. start with Abdoulaye Doucouré and Demarai Gray in the team, maybe start with Yerry Mina in the side, and then get the game sort of won by half-time, and then bring those players off to get a rest ahead of the Premier League game at the weekend, and start without those players, and then have to rely on bringing on the likes of Demarai Gray and Abdoulaye Doucouré, hoping that they'll change the game, because, I said it yesterday in the instant match reaction, I wasn't particularly pleased to see Demarai Gray coming on yesterday or Abdoulaye Doucouré, because it was very clear that the manager didn't want to have to rely on those two players. It was very clear that they were on the bench to make up the numbers because we've simply got nobody else. But the reason they didn't start is because the manager wanted to give them a rest ahead of the game on Saturday against Norwich, which is now an absolutely massive game of football, and Everton absolutely have to win it. We have to win it anyway, because it's at home to a side that we should be beating, but it's an even bigger game after obviously the two defeats of this week. So, I wasn't particularly happy when I saw Abdoulaye Doucouré and Demarai Gray warming up and coming on, because it was very clear that wasn't ideal. It was very clear that wasn't what Rafa Benitez wanted to do, but he felt like he had to do it to try and get something out of the game, or at least to try and go out and win the game. And unfortunately, those two players come on, both played 20-25 minutes, something like that, and then Everton didn't end up winning the game anyway, so they may as well would have stayed on the bench and got a full night's rest ahead of an important game on Saturday. But look, like I said, that's just one issue I had with this sort of performance and game of football yesterday. Everton were really, really, really poor. Really, really poor. There was times when QPR looked like the Premier League side and Everton looked like a team that had only just figured out what a football looks like an hour before kickoff. And that's no exaggeration, by the way. I'm not just saying that for comedic effect. We looked dreadful in that first half. Absolutely dreadful. We completely allowed QPR to run rings around us. Willock on their left-hand side was just embarrassing John Joe Kenny, absolutely embarrassing John Joe Kenny. There's no other way to say it. Charlie Austin up front was having a field day against Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey. He found it far too easy to dominate those two in the air, on the floor. It was just far too comfortable for them. And QPR looked like a team that were free-flowing, getting forward, full of confidence, full of ability. And Everton looked like a side that just didn't really look interested and didn't really want to be there and didn't really want to fight. And that's so disappointing, because obviously we went into this game with a plethora of injuries. Obviously we know Dominic Calvert-Lewin out injured for probably the next 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully it's not longer than that. We know Richarlison's out for a very similar time period as well, due to the challenge in the game against Burnley. Seamus Coleman obviously out. Jordan Pickford obviously out. So when you looked at that Everton side yesterday, a lot of people would deem that team a second side, and there was a number of players in there that, were squad players, if you like, that I was really disappointed with, because I thought they should have been doing much, much better with their opportunity. Ultimately, they were given the opportunity by the manager to go and play that game last night, and they should have been taking that opportunity with both hands and trying to show Rafa Benitez why they should be in contention of playing Premier League games for Everton. Not one of those players last night made a good account of themselves. Maybe Anthony Gordon, out of obviously the players that come in, but other than Anthony Gordon, nobody else would have made the manager, and certainly didn't make me as a fan, and I'm sure a lot of other Evertonians will agree with this, look at them and think, do you know what, these should be in real contention of playing at the weekend. John Joe Kenny, not a chance. Tom Davies and Andre Gomez, not a chance. Solomon Rondon was poor, but we've got nobody else, so he will play at the weekend. Mason Allgate, Ben Goffrey didn't really do much. Asmir Begovic, of course he'll play at the weekend, because again, like I said, Jordan's injured, but as soon as Jordan comes back, he'll be straight back in there, because it's very clear he's a much better goalkeeper than Asmir Begovic. So that's the disappointment. But the reality of the situation is, as I've said, because of our injuries and because of the fact that we've got 5-6 first team players out, a lot of these players will feature over the next couple of weeks in the Premier League. We've got no choice. For me, Solomon Rondon should have been taken off at half time, not only because he wasn't in the game whatsoever and he wasn't impacting the game, but also because he's going to start on Saturday against Norwich. He was already blowing out of his arse in the first 45 minutes. It's clear he's not fit. Before joining Everton, he hadn't played, I don't think he played much football for 4 months or something like that. You could see he wasn't fit in the game against Aston Villa at the weekend. He played again last night for pretty much 75 minutes, something like that, and he's going to start again on Saturday. It's just, we're in a bad situation, and recruitment is one conversation that is definitely a conversation to have on a different day. Maybe we'll sit down tomorrow and talk about recruitment, because our recruitment has been dreadful over the years. To think that this is an Everton side that have spent £500 million in 5 years on, and our squad is that thin, and our secondary team, if you like, or our backup squad can't even go to a championship side and put a performance in, is shocking, to say the least. It is absolutely unacceptable in any sense of the imagination. But like I said, that's a completely different discussion for another day. But my biggest disappointment last night was the fact that there was a lot of players in there that you would have thought would have been snatching that opportunity with both hands. You would have thought would have been there last night thinking, do you know what, this is my chance to show the manager that I'm more than good enough and more than competent enough to not only play in the cup games, but to also challenge the likes of Abdoulaye Doucouré, Alan for the spot in the Premier League team, the likes of, Andros Townsend, Damari Gray. Both of those obviously featured last night, for the Premier League space, and none of them did. There was a whole load of players: John Joe Kenny, Andre Gomez, Tom Davies, Mason Allgate, Asmir Begovic, like I said, Alex Iwobi, that just didn't do anywhere near enough to show the manager and to show us as fans that they deserve to be in contention of a place on Saturday. Alan will be straight back in with no question. John Joe Kenny might have to play because Seamus Coleman's still out, and obviously Luca Dean went off injured last night. We don't know the extent of that. The manager believes that it wasn't too serious and that Luca Dean will be checked today, but we don't know whether he'll be able to play on Saturday. So John Joe Kenny may be forced to play at the weekend. Should he be playing? Absolutely not. He's nowhere near good enough to play for Everton. Nowhere near good enough. And I won't have otherwise. Again, I'm sure the lad's a dead nice lad, and I'm sure he's a dead hard working lad. But the reality of the situation is, he shouldn't be at Everton Football Club. He should not be at Everton Football Club. He certainly shouldn't be playing football at Everton, because he's nowhere near good enough. He got absolutely rinsed on that right hand side by Willock all first half, and then for the majority of the second half as well. Didn't stop one cross coming into the box. Awful positionally wise. And yet he's likely going to play at the weekend against Norwich if Luca Dean obviously is injured for that game, which is really, really worrying. It is really, really worrying. And it's disappointing. It is disappointing because, like I said, It's not like we can sit here and go, awful performance, the squad players didn't impress, they missed their opportunity. Oh well, we've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Seamus Coleman, Jordan Pickford, all to go back in the team on Saturday. We haven't got any of those players. Yes, we've got Yerry Mina, who will be straight back in, I would assume. Yes, we've got Alan and Abdoulaye Doucouré. Obviously, I know Abdoulaye Doucouré, come on last night, same with Damari Gray, to go back in. But we're still missing a place up front. Solomon Rondon is still going to have to start on Saturday. And let's be honest, he didn't blow any skates up last night, did he? Didn't really cause any issues to a championship backline. And now, granted that I get he's not fit. I get he's not played an awful lot of football, and I get he's only been at the club for a week, so I'm not by any stretch of the imagination having a go at him, but he's very clearly not ready. He's very clearly not fit, certainly not to be playing in the Premier League, but he's going to have to on Saturday because we've got nobody else. And that for me is the biggest worry. But look, let's delve in to the performance then. I know we probably don't want to, but we are going to anyway. If you're enjoying, by the way, hit that big thumbs up button. It does only take a second. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments as well. We will be trying to get involved with as many of them as we possibly can today. And if you're watching a YouTube video, leave your YouTube comments down below as well, and we'll get involved with as many of them. But obviously, Rafa Benitez announced his Everton side an hour before kick-off. Tom Davies and Andre Gomez coming into the midfield as expected. Anthony Gordon coming in on one side of the forward line, obviously with Andros Townsend on the other side. Alex Iwobi playing in, I don't know, with a 10 or on the right hand side, I don't really know. And then obviously Solomon Rondon was up front. We had a centre-back pairing of Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey. Luca Dean at left back as expected because we had nobody else, and I actually think Luca Dean had a decent game before he went off. John Joe Kenny at right back, and then Asmir Begovic in goal. And I looked at that side, to be fair. I looked at that side at 6:45 when it was announced, and I thought that is more than good enough to beat this QPR team. That is a team of Premier League level players. Let's not get it twisted. Asmir Begovic, Premier League experienced goalkeeper, played however many games in the Premier League over his career. Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey, both established Premier League centre-halves, both played a lot of Premier League football between them. Okay, John Joe Kenny on the right-hand side, maybe not a Premier League established. Luca Dean, Premier League established left back, of course. Tom Davies, Andre Gomez, both played hundreds of Premier League games each between them. Andros Townsend, of course, on the right-hand side, who I actually think was good. Okay, Anthony Gordon, maybe not as established as the others. Solomon Rondon, established striker. Alex Iwobi, hundreds of Premier League appearances. It wasn't like we were fielding a side full of under-23s that you looked at and thought, this is going to be a difficult game for these lads. They haven't really got the Premier League experience. They haven't got the experience of battling with a team like QPR. We fielded a team of Premier League experienced players that should have been more than good enough to go out there and do the business yesterday. And if they'd have had the motivation to do that, they would have been able to do that. And that for me is the biggest worry, is that why weren't these squad players looking at this as an opportunity to show the manager that they're more than good enough, or that they believe they're more than good enough to go and play in the Premier League, or to be in this, to be in an Everton side that's playing in, week out in the Premier League. Maybe, and this is a wild guess here, maybe these players just aren't good enough. Maybe it's nothing to do with their motivation. Maybe it's nothing to do with their desire or their commitment. Maybe they're just not good enough. Maybe we've got a squad of 6-7 really good, really talented players, and then the rest of them bang average, absolutely bang average. But in certain circumstances, that doesn't make sense, because we've seen Tom Davies put in Premier League performances where he's been absolutely unbelievable. We saw Tom Davies in the Merseyside derby in February, and he was absolutely fantastic. We've seen Tom Davies on a number of Premier League match days where he's been man of the match by a country mile, and he's played sides like Man City, like Liverpool, like, real tough Premier League sides, and he's waltzed them off the park as if it's no man's business, and then gone back to, playing about on a skateboard afterwards. So in certain circumstances like Tom Davies, it really confuses me, because we know that this lad has got it in his locker. We know that he's proven before that he's good enough to play in an Everton side in the Premier League against tough opposition and manage the game brilliantly. So why wasn't he doing it last night? Maybe it was a lack of game time. Maybe it was a lack of confidence. Obviously, he missed the deciding penalty, which for me isn't a big talking point really, because I think his overall performance was much worse than missing the deciding penalty. But why isn't he showing that? Andre Gomez, again, is a experienced Premier League player. Should have been waltzing that midfield yesterday. Should have found it more than comfortable to to control that ball in the midfield. Should have been easy. Should have been absolutely easy for Andre Gomes yesterday to just control the ball. And that's no disrespect to QPR. QPR are a decent side. And look, QPR were fully deserving of their win last night. Fully deserving of their win. They battered us off the park in the first half. And then, in the second half, okay, we maybe had a bit more control of the ball, but they defended well and they done what they needed to do. Full respect to QPR for going out there. They won the penalty shootout. They deserved the win. Like I said before, that game wasn't lost on penalties. In my opinion, it was lost in the first half when we shown how poor we really were. But Andre Gomes should have found it easy last night to control that ball in the midfield with Tom Davies. Again, Alex Iwobi should have been running rings around QPR. Now, yes, a couple of occasions he got through and he created chances and he looked bright, but for 90 minutes, Alex Iwobi should have been running rings around that QPR back line, and he wasn't. Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey should have found it easy to deal with Charlie Austin. Charlie Austin is a big physical centre forward. He's not great on the ball. He's not particularly great in the air. He's just a big, physical, difficult centre forward to manage. But he's a difficult championship centre forward to manage. Now, just look at some of the games Everton have played recently. The weekend against Aston Villa, Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings, two big physical centre forwards that, Yerry Mina and Michael Keane obviously had to manage and at times found it difficult. You look at, the week before, Burnley, Chris Wood, Ashley Barnes, two big physical centre forwards to manage that Yerry Mina managed them and managed really, really well. And you look at some of the centre forwards throughout the league that we've still got to play against. Romelu Lukaku at Chelsea, Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United. Again, I'm trying to think of other centre forwards. Harry Kane at Tottenham Hotspur. Again, Jamie Vardy at Leicester. There's a lot of real tough centre forwards that Everton's central defence will have to manage throughout the course of this season in the Premier League. And you look at Yerry Mina and you think, yeah, absolutely, you're more than capable. Patrick Bamford, who obviously Yerry Mina had to manage against Leeds, big physical centre forward. You look at Yerry Mina and you think, yeah, right, you're capable of managing players like that. You look at Michael Keane, maybe not so much, but with Yerry Mina on his side, is much more confident. But what if Yerry Mina picks up a knock? Do we really believe that Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate are going to be able to manage those types of centre forwards when they couldn't manage? And again, no disrespect to Charlie Austin, but Charlie Austin is a very base level of that type of striker, and he managed to score twice in the first half, and absolutely he played the pair of them off the park. So if you were to say to me, Cam, would you be confident going into a game against Tottenham Hotspur with Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey as the centre backs? I'd say no, because Harry Kane will run rings around them. Same going into a game against Chelsea with Lukaku, and they're the elite level centre forwards. I think Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes would have had a field day against Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey last week. I think Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings would have had a field day against the pair of them last week. I think Patrick Bamford would have a field day against the pair of them. And they're the level. They're just good Premier League centre forwards. Never mind top level Premier League centre forwards. And I love Ben Godfrey. I think he's brilliant. But he's not fit. He's not ready to play games of football consistently for Everton. He just isn't. And Mason Holgate, maybe there's a decent player in there. But the simple fact of the matter is, he's not consistent enough. And I don't think Mason Holgate understands what he's good at and what he isn't good at, and what to do and what not to do. He still seems to think that he can run the ball out in the middle of the park and play as a ball playing centre back. He's not a ball playing centre back. He's nowhere near good enough with the ball at his feet to do that or to be that type of player. So the sooner he realises that, the better for him, because the more he'll start focusing on other areas of his game and the more he'll improve. But the pair of them are two up-and-coming young centre-halves who have played a lot of Premier League football between them, certainly more so Mason Holgate, and a championship centre-forward found it far too comfortable to deal with them yesterday. Now that worries me, because we know the injury problems that Yerry Mina has throughout the season. We know that he's unreliable in regards to being fit for an entire season. And I look at the other three centre-halves and I think, if you put any of them up against even a bang average Premier League centre forward, as long as that Premier League centre forward's big and physical, I think they'll have a field day against the three of them. I really, really do. And that worries me. That worries me massively. But anyway, let's get into the start of the game. Rambled a bit there on various other subjects. So let's get into the start of the game. If you're enjoying, by the way, hit the thumbs up button. If you could share the stream, that would be great as well. 27 people watching. If you could share the stream, maybe get the numbers up a little bit, that would be great. And if you're enjoying, please hit that big thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. So like I said, kick off. Obviously, we found out the team beforehand. Again, like I said, I don't think I was alone in thinking that Everton team should have been more than good enough to get a result, more than good enough to go and get a win last night. And the game starts, and Everton, I think for the first 5-10 minutes, looked okay. Was sort of controlling the ball, holding the ball up, trying to move it forward, trying to create chances, trying to get into the opposition half, sort of feeling QPR out. But realistically, it was probably the other way around. It was probably QPR feeling Everton out, what they were going to do, what they were going to bring. Very quiet first 10-15 minutes, not an awful lot happening, not an awful lot to report on. I think we had a chance early on with Anthony Gordon, when Alex Iwobi played a really nice ball down that right hand side. Anthony Gordon come on the end of it, sort of took a touch inside and had a shot, and the goalkeeper made a good save. Probably should have been doing a little bit better with it, but the goalkeeper gets down really early and makes a good save. And it's from that point you're sort of looking at it thinking, right, okay, that's bright. Anthony Gordon's getting on the ball in the right areas, he's having shots, he's looking confident, and it's clear that down that right hand side we can expose QPR, because they left that heavily open. But QPR almost sort of duplicated that for Everton and looked at Everton and thought, well, hang on, we can expose them down that right hand side. And they got down the right hand side once, and I remember it was early on, about 15 minutes into the game. They got down and attacked John Joe Kenny's side of the pitch once. I think it was Willock took it round them and knocked across in and ended up getting defended. And from that point on, QPR just targeted that side of the pitch. Absolutely targeted. Luca Dean had one of his quietest first halves in a while. I actually thought Luca Dean had a good game. Obviously scored the goal, which is a really, really nice goal. But also, defensively, I thought he dealt with everything he needs to deal with well. And that's the level. That's the difference in the level between a Luca Dean and a John Joe Kenny. Luca Dean, everything he had to deal with down that left-hand side, he dealt with really, really well. John Joe Kenny ran rings around. Absolutely ran rings around. And I don't just mean to pick out John Joe Kenny or individually criticise him, because I think there was a number of players that were nowhere near good enough last night. I think Tom Davis was poor. I think Andre Gomes was poor, but John Joe Kenny got exposed massively. And for those Evertonians that were maybe thinking, give John Joe a go in the Premier League, let's see how he does while Seamus is out, he's not good enough. There's a reason why Carlo Ancelotti didn't look anywhere near him last season or in his first season. Obviously, I know he went out on loan, but there's a reason why Carlo Ancelotti preferred Mason Holgate at right back or Ben Godfrey at right back to him. There was a reason why at the weekend, when we knew Seamus Coleman was out injured against Aston Villa, Rafa Benitez preferred Ben Godfrey as a right back, an unfit Ben Godfrey in a position that he's not very comfortable in over John Joe Kenny. And the reason for that was shown yesterday, is that when John Joe come up against the Championship side that he should have been more than comfortable dealing with, his positioning was everywhere, he didn't stop one cross coming into the box, and he was ran rings around all day by the young winger Willock on that left hand side. And like I said, from that point on, when they beat him once and got the cross in, that was it then. It was just target down that left hand side and down that right hand side, of Everton's, and that's all they did for the entirety of the rest of the first half. They got through on a number of occasions Everton had to deal with, and then of course they got their opening goal. Willock just absolutely ran rings around. I think it was Andros Townsend. John Joe Kenny was nowhere to be seen. I think he plays the ball into another QPR attacker. The name escapes me, I apologise. Ball comes in, Asmir Begovic throws himself at it for some unbeknown reason to me. Throws himself at the cross, gets a hand on it, but palms it straight into the path of Charlie Austin, who was completely free, unmarked, and he taps it in for the first goal. And all of a sudden, 22 minutes in, Everton are 1-0 down, and had been absolutely dominated for the last 5 or 10 minutes. And then then is when it started, really, wasn't it? That's when QPR started to pick up a bit of momentum. They started to pick up a bit of confidence. They started to pick up a bit of, almost like they were thinking, actually, do you know what? We can get at this Everton team here. We can put another couple past them before half time and have the game, done and dusted comfortably. It was almost like they were thinking about getting the game won and taking off some of their key players ahead of their championship game at the weekend, rather than Everton thinking about getting the game won and taking off some of our key players. So anyway, yeah, again, like I said, QPR still continue to throw balls forward. At this point, Willock is just having a field day against John Joe Kenny, an absolute field day. John Joe Kenny just hasn't got a clue where he is or what he needs to do or how to defend. And QPR are just peppering him. But like I said, for the goal, let's talk about the goal for a second. Far too easy. Far too easy. Now, this is a good level championship side. A championship side that will probably come close to the playoffs this season. Maybe get promoted if they have a really good season, but more than likely we'll have a good season in the league. And for a period of 15-20 minutes in that first half last night, they played like Barcelona. And they didn't play like Barcelona because they were unbelievable. To be fair, they were very good. But they played like Barcelona because Everton played like Dave's Sunday League side on a Sunday afternoon. And by that I mean we were everywhere. We were absolutely all over the place. And they just found it far too easy to run rings around us. The goal is ridiculous when you watch it again. Far too easy for them to play the ball down that left-hand side. Gets a crossing. I don't know what Asmir Begovic is doing. I really don't know what Asmir Begovic is doing. He's either got to come there and punch the ball far outwards, catch it, or don't come at all and stay on your line. And if he stays on his line, then he's got a much better opportunity to save the Charlie Austin shot. But he dives ridiculously at the ball, palms it straight into the path of Charlie Austin, and he's got to tap in. Now, yes, Charlie Austin wasn't marked, and like I said, it was poor defensively. I really don't think Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey are a good enough centre-back partnership whatsoever. There's not enough leadership there. There's not enough quality there. There's not enough confidence there. There's just not enough there to be a centre-back pairing. Even in a cup game against the championship side, there's not enough there. And yeah, like I said, Everton got 1-0 down, and then from that point on, we were completely over the place, really, weren't we? We got the goal back through, I think, QPR maybe exerting a little bit too much and being a little bit too confident. But for the rest of that first half, we'll talk about the equaliser in a moment, but for the rest of that first half, we were atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. It was one of the worst halves of football I've ever witnessed as an Evertonian. We were just all over the place. QPR were just bringing the ball forward, creating chances, balls into the box. Again, Charlie Austin having a field day managing our centre-backs. Willock was getting in the right areas, getting shots off, finding it far too easy to do that. And Everton, we were just everywhere. Like I said, they really targeted that right-hand side of John Joe Kenny. Really targeted. They didn't go down the left often because I think they understood that Luca Dean was, was obviously is a much better player than John Joe Kenny, but also I think they understood that, again, obviously we had much more cover down that left-hand side. They just heavily targeted that right-hand side, and they got a lot of luck in doing that. But in doing that, they left the left-hand side exposed, and Everton get the equaliser. Ball comes in, Andros Townsend picks it up brilliantly, dinks it over to Luca Dean. Is he offside? Maybe. I don't particularly care, to be honest with you. Dinks it into Luca Dean, as I said, and Luca Dean, it's a really nice finish, to be honest with you. And I said in the preview the other day, I said, well, firstly, Luca Dean is going to start because we've got nobody else to start, so there's no other option. Luca Dean will have to start. But secondly, hopefully, Luca will put in a performance that it makes him forget the one against Aston Villa. Because let's be honest, we can all be honest here. He had a shocker against Aston Villa. He had an absolute shocker. He had an awful 10 minutes. He was at fault for the first goal. He scored an own goal for the second goal. He had one of his very rare, really poor games. He hasn't been great this season, Luca Dean, but I don't particularly think he's been poor either. I think he's just been alright. But he had a very rare, really poor game on the weekend, and a lot of people would have said that was the time to take him out, give him a little bit of a rest, let him recuperate, and go again on Saturday against Norwich. But maybe playing last night was the ideal situation because he could get that Villa game out of his mind, get that performance out of his mind, and just focus on putting in a decent performance last night. I'm throwing a scenario together as if we've got any other option, by the way. I'm talking about as if Rafa Benitez had another left back on the bench to be able to bring on. I'm talking about, Luca Dean, maybe it was the right decision to play him last night. It was the only decision. We didn't have anybody else. It was the only decision. It wasn't like we were sitting here saying, oh, well, should we take Luca Dean out, give him a bit of a rest? He didn't play particularly well at the weekend. We didn't have a choice. He had to play. We had nobody else. Narzin Kunku's out on loan. Thierry Small spatters dummy and gone to Southampton. We got nobody else. Bloody Fabian Delph is sat on a physio bench somewhere. He had to play. And maybe that you know, him having to play, like I said, was the best thing for him, because he was able to put that performance against Villa out the way. And I actually think he done well yesterday. Obviously, he come off in the 80th minute with an injury, which wasn't great. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious. Rafa Benitez confirmed that the club will assess that injury today. Apparently, it was a knock on the ankle, so hopefully it's nothing too serious. But I actually think, other than that, I thought he done well. Defended well every time he needed to do. Granted, you would expect that for a player at the level of Luca Dean coming up against the Championship side, and obviously got the goal. Really nice finish. First Everton goal for 2 years, I believe. Over 2 years, maybe. And it was a really, really nice finish down that left-hand side. So Everton get back in the game, and at that point, you're thinking, right, well, can we now just sort of, again, forget about that first half, forget about that poor sort of 35, 40 minutes, and just go and grab the game by the scruff of the neck now, go and show our quality. You know, okay, QPR have had their time, they scored the goal, they've had their little 10, 15 minutes of you know, battling and having the best of us. Now we're back in the game. Let's go and sort of kill the game off now and show our quality. We didn't, did we? Again, like I said, game plays out into the end of the first half. QPR still getting forward, still putting pressure on us, still showing confidence. You know, you would have thought that an equaliser would have given Everton a little bit of confidence. You would have thought that Everton would have grown in confidence and grown in momentum. And grown in, right, you know what, we're actually going to take this game to QPR now. We're actually going to grab it by the scruff of the neck and actually go and do something. Go and win a game, you know, go and battle, go and fight. But it wasn't to be, was it? It wasn't to be. Very much, you know, almost instantly, 5-10 minutes after Everton get the equaliser, QPR go up to the end just before half time. Easy ball into the box again. Don't know how many times I have to sit here and say, considering we are the worst team in the country at defending crosses into the box, and I will categorically say that we are the worst team in the country at defending crosses into the box, without Yerry Mina on the pitch. Certainly with Yerry Mina on the pitch, it's very much a different situation, but without Yerry Mina on the pitch, we just simply can't defend balls into the box, whether it be corners, whether it be crosses. Considering we're that bad, and we know we're that bad, we never stop a cross. John Joe Kenny again failing to stop a cross, completely allowing the ball to come into the box, and Charlie Austin somehow, some way, I don't know how, he rises above Ben Godfrey. I don't know how he ends up getting the header. I don't know how he ends up getting the connection on the header, but he jumps up, he heads the ball into the back of the net. Asmir Begovic completely stands still. You know, again, maybe he could have done better. Probably could have done better, to be honest with you. And QPR go 2-1 up just before half-time. And all of a sudden, when you're thinking, right, we've gotten back into the game here, we've equalised, go and grab it by the scruff of the neck and go and take it to them. Go and create the chances, get forward. Then that's when you were thinking the likes of Tom Davis, Andre Gomez might grow in confidence a little bit. Alex Iwobi might grow in confidence and might think, right, you know what, we're going to go and show that we're the Premier League team here. And we didn't. Instantly, they get the second, and it's 2-1 all of a sudden, and they're going in at half time, 2-1 up, made up. The second goal, again, like I said, baffles me. Absolutely baffles me how we don't stop that cross coming in. Baffles me how we don't stop that cross coming in. It's beyond embarrassing. Beyond embarrassing that we allowed that ball to come in the box. And then it's awful defending by Luca Dean. Not by Luca Dean, by Ben Godfrey. It's absolutely awful defending by Ben Godfrey. He, as I said before, it backs up the point what I'm saying is that other than Yerry Mina, I don't think any of our centre-halves is particularly good in the air. And that's worrying, because when you have a big physical centre-forward like a Charlie Austin, or, as I said, Charlie Austin is a decent championship-level example of that type of striker. You've got top-quality examples of that type of striker in Romelu Lukaku, Harry Kane, you know, and then you've got good level Premier League examples of that type of striker in the likes of Chris Wood, Ashley Barnes, Patrick Bamford, Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins, etc., etc. Now, Mason Allgate and Ben Godfrey couldn't deal with a decent level championship example of that striker. How are we meant to have any confidence that they'll be able to deal with those Premier League players, Premier League strikers that are obviously at a higher level than Charlie Austin? I don't think they can. So without Yerry Mina on that pitch in an Everton shirt, I really, really worry about the ability of Everton's centre-backs. I really, really do. And their ability is to work in a partnership. It seems like every centre-back can play next to Yerry Mina and play well. When Michael Keane plays next to Yerry Mina, more often than not, he has a decent game. When Ben Godfrey plays next to Yerry Mina, he plays well. When Mason Allgate plays next to Yerry Mina, he's solid. But when you take Yerry Mina out the equation, and whether it's Keane and Holgate, or Holgate and Godfrey, or Keane and Godfrey, none of those partnerships seem to work without Yerry Mina. None of them. Absolutely none of them. And this game proves one thing. It proves to us that we absolutely have to protect Yerry Mina at all costs. We cannot. We've already spoken over the last couple of days about how detrimental having both Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin out at the same time is to Everton. I'll say it, I've said it once and I'll say it again. If, touch wood, this never happens, but if Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison both got sort of season-ending injuries, or were both out for a sustained period of time, Everton would be in a relegation battle. No doubt about it. You can call me reactionary, you can call me going over the top, no doubt about it. Without those two players consistently, Everton in a relegation battle. I've got, and you won't convince me otherwise, because we don't have any other consistent goal scorers in the team. We just simply don't. And it's the same with Yerry Mina at the back. Without Yerry Mina, if Yerry Mina picks up an injury, again, touch wood, I've got loads of wood around me. That's not an innuendo. I've got a wooden desk. Touch wood that Yerry Mina doesn't pick up, an injury that's going to keep him out for, a couple of months, or God forbid, the rest of the season or whatever, because we would be genuinely fucked. And I apologise for the bad language, but we would be genuinely fucked without Yerry Mina. We seriously would, because we can't defend crosses into the box without him. We can't defend corners. We can't defend set pieces. And not only would we miss him physically for his ability in the air and for his ability as a centre-back, but as I said, we haven't got one decent centre-back partnership to our name without Yerry Mina in. Yerry Mina next to any of the other centre-backs, I'm happy with. If you were to say to me on Saturday, Yerry Mina partners Mason Allgate at the weekend, I'd say sound, because Mason is a much better player with Yerry Mina next to him. Ben Godfrey partners Yerry Mina, sound. Michael Keane partners Yerry Mina, sound. But if Yerry Mina isn't in that centre-back partnership, I'm worried, because I just don't think there's any confidence, there's any leadership, there's any control, there's any, like I said, or there's any real aerial physical presence without Yerry Mina in that Everton back line. And that is extremely, extremely worrying, considering Yerry Mina hasn't got the greatest injury record, and certainly hasn't got the greatest injury record when he's having to play constantly, because there's, we've got nobody else that can come and replace him. It baffles me how some Evertonians still don't think he's our best centre-half. Baffles me. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I get all of that. I absolutely get all of that. Everyone is entitled to our own opinion, to their own opinion. I understand that, but I cannot comprehend Evertonians that don't understand the importance of Yerry Mina. Go and watch Everton play without Yerry Mina, and go and watch Everton play with Yerry Mina. Have two screens and watch the pair of them at the same time. Difficult to do, but definitely doable. And just watch the difference between when Yerry Mina's on the pitch and when he's not. Watch the difference between Everton defending crosses for a start, because we defend crosses an awful lot better with Yerry Mina on the pitch, because he's like a ball magnet, he gets through everything. But go and watch the difference between whoever's playing next to Yerry Mina when Yerry Mina's there and when he's not there, because I can guarantee they play an awful lot better and an awful lot more confidence when Yerry Mina's next to them than when he's not. And that's for me, that's fact. That's absolute fact. I'm not confident in any other centre-back pairing in Everton without Yerry Mina in them. Yesterday proved it. A decent level championship striker completely dominated the pair of Mason Allgate and Ben Godfrey last night. Now, granted, Ben Godfrey isn't 100% fit. I get it. Ben Godfrey isn't 100% fit, and obviously 100% fit Ben Godfrey maybe would have performed a lot better last night. I understand that he's had his troubles. Obviously, he's been out with COVID isolation. He hasn't had an awful lot of time to prepare training. I get all of that. I get it. But it was worrying. It was worrying. Peter says, cheer us all up. That why don't you, Cam? There's positives to take from last night. There isn't a lot, but there's positives to take. But that for me, that's the truth. That's the truth. And it's not like we're looking at Yerry Mina talking about a player that goes through every season without any injuries, and his injury record is unbelievable. This is a lad who picks up injuries frequently, absolutely frequently. And I just... Look, maybe it's a bit of a negative way at looking at things, but I just think it's the truth. I just look at this Everton side and think that without Yerry Mina in that centre-back partnership, we will struggle. Put it this way, we will struggle massively. And let's just hope that he can maintain a good level of fitness throughout the rest of the season. But anyway, let's go on to a positive. Let's talk about a positive for the game. We will talk about the second half in a moment. We will get in the live comments in a moment. But let's talk about a positive. Anthony Gordon, I thought, out of those squad players that we looked at, we just spoke about Alex Iwobi, Tom Davies, Mason Holgate, Andre Gomez, John Joe Kenny. These players that we were hoping would turn up last night and put in a performance and give the manager something to think about and didn't. Out of all of those players, Anthony Gordon falls in that conversation as well, and I actually think Anthony Gordon impressed last night. By the way, if you're enjoying, please hit that like button. 46 people watching. If you could get the likes up, that would mean a great deal to me. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would be absolutely perfect. But yeah, Anthony Gordon, I thought, impressed me last night. Not only was he impressive getting forward, not only was he impressive sort of trying to create chances, trying to bring the ball forward. He had a shot early on, like we talked about before, that was saved by the goalkeeper, very unlucky. He was trying to get other players into the game, running down that left-hand side, cutting balls across the box that, unfortunately, Solomon Rondon just couldn't get to. And like I said, not only that, his forward play, I think, was very exciting, but I thought he battled defensively as well. I thought he kept his head up throughout the game. I thought he worked hard, and I thought he battled. He battled defensively, won the ball back. I think physically he was sort of holding his own as well against the real physical sort of QPR backline. And I was impressed by Anthony Gordon. Now, some people criticise in the comments, I'm not sure about Gordon, thought he only impressed because he found his level. Some people would say that's his level. Some people would say he's impressed there, Cam, because that's the level he should be playing at. He should be playing in the Championship. That's his level, and that's why he looked good last night. But I think that would be slightly unfair at this point in time, because we haven't seen him in the Premier League. So, I think we come on maybe once for 5 or 10 minutes, but we haven't seen him consistently in the Premier League this season to determine whether that is or is not his level. Maybe it is his level, and that's why he looked good, and that's why he looked calm and cool, and that's why he was a threat last night. But I would like to see him given a chance in the Premier League, even if it's just off the bench for 20, 25, 30 minutes at the weekend. I think ultimately at this point in time, with the current issues with our squad depth, with Richarlison out, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin out, with Andros Townsend and Damari Gray bound to play a lot of football over the next couple of weeks, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility to assume that Anthony Gordon will get at least some game time in the Premier League, and I hope he does. Because this would be interesting to see, this whole it's because he's found his level, because if he goes out in the Premier League and does it there and plays like he did last night, then hopefully he can be an important player to the squad. If he goes out and he doesn't, and he can't battle and he can't keep up that physicality, then yeah, obviously we know that maybe he's not ready to play in the Premier League. But again, let's just look at his performance last night. I thought it was positive. He didn't hide, he battled, he worked hard, he was getting forward, he was creating chances, and I think Anthony Gordon, Andros Townsend and Luca Dean were probably the 3 best players in an Everton shirt last night. Luca Dean, like I said, another positive last night, other than going off injured, which isn't great. Hopefully that's nothing too serious. Another real positive about yesterday was that Luca Dean managed to shake off that poor performance against Aston Villa, and I actually think he played particularly well last night. Obviously got the goal, which was great. Chris says, hope he proves me wrong. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. He got the goal, which was a really nice finish, and will do him the world of good. First goal for Everton in a couple of years, and I thought defensively he done okay as well. And then Andros Townsend, again, another goal, another assist for Andros Townsend. What can you say? This lad has started the season brilliantly. Again, worked hard, battled, fought, and he's getting involved. He's involved nearly every game with a goal. So again, another real positive performance by Andros last night. Let's get into some of the live comments then before we go into talking about the second half and then ultimately the penalty shootout. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that thumbs up button. It does only take a second if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. If we could get the viewers up to 50, that would be amazing. 50 viewers would be absolutely amazing. So if we could share the stream on all socials and try and get as many people involved, that would be absolutely perfect. Peter says, morning Cam, well, don't know what to say, mate. Sorry, afternoon Cam. Yeah, well, look, again, as I said, the bare bones of the situation, you know, we talk about the game and the performance and this, that and the other, and the performance of certain players, but the bare bones of it is that we're out of the competition now. And I get that the Carabao Cup it's much more difficult to win now than maybe it was 5-6 years ago, because typically Manchester City win it every season now. I understand that. But it is still, for me, the easiest out of the 3 items of silverware that we have to win every season. We're not going to win the Premier League. We won't win that for a long time. The FA Cup, I think, is more difficult than the Carabao Cup. So therefore, even though Man City seem to win the Carabao Cup every year, it's still the easiest competition, I think, to do well in. And we're out at the 3rd round stage because of, you know, a poor performance by a lot of players that should have been performing a lot better, should have been thinking, do you know what, I want to show the manager here that I'm good enough to play in the Premier League. They didn't show anywhere near it. QPR played like City for 35 minutes. Yeah, they did. We allowed them to. June says, Tom Davies needs to find a new club in January to have a regular first-team football. This was a big opportunity for the Finnish players to impress. They didn't need to sell to reinforce the squad. Hard to disagree with that from June, to be honest with you. Whether Tom Davies will go, I don't know. Maybe a loan into a Premier League side where he's going to play every week will do Tom well. Like I said, the Tom Davies thing baffles me because, look, John Joe Kenny, not good enough. Not good enough. We know he's not good enough. Never will be good enough for Everton, unfortunately. Not good enough. Needs to move on. Andre Gomez, again, I'm getting to that point now where I think just not good enough. Not good enough. Not effective enough. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't score. Isn't good at defending. Doesn't assist. What does he do? You know, again, Mason Holgate, similar to Tom Davies. There's a player in there, so he needs to get that out consistently. But Tom, we know Tom has performed. I remember Tom Davies in the Merseyside derby against Liverpool in February when we beat them. Absolutely unbelievable. Ran rings around the so-called Premier League winning midfield and Champions League winning midfield. Found it comfortable to do so. We know Tom Davies has played in big Premier League games for Everton and done brilliantly and just absolutely put out a 10 out of 10 performance and just ran rings around good top quality Premier League players. So the Tom Davies thing is a little bit more difficult for me because this is not just a lad who we look at and think you're nowhere near good enough, because he's shown on multiple occasions that he is good enough when he's confident or when he's playing consistently or whatever it is. So I still think there's a player in there for Tom. Maybe he does need to go out and go and get a loan deal and play consistently week in, week out to show that more often. But I don't think it's as easy as saying he's not good enough, because he's shown before that he is good enough. So why can't he show that consistently? Maybe it's a consistency issue. Maybe he just can't do it consistently enough. But he's shown before that he can do it, which is something for me. Liam says, front 3 of Gray, Rondon and Wonby on Saturday. Looking forward to that. Forgotten Where the Movies this afternoon, Cam. I think with all the injuries that we've got, it's showing that the limits that the rest of the squad has really putting us in a worrying position. Yes. Liam says we seriously need to do a few bits of business in January. We need the right back tied up in January. Another winger too is needed. Obvious other positions, but they're most important for now. Don't know how with FFP, but we'll have to pull something out of our arse. Well, look, James Rodriguez looks set to leave, doesn't he? You know, again, he apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano, has agreed his deal with Al Rayyan over in Qatar, and according to a lot of journalists, Pipe Sierra, a lot of other sources, it's very much a case of waiting for the official announcement. Now, with James Rodriguez, he's made his decision, he signed, and that's that. Al Rayyan themselves put a little teaser video up earlier this morning of James Rodriguez, not of James Rodriguez, but a little teaser video teasing a new signing, which again we can only assume is James Rodriguez. So that seems to be only a matter of maybe hours, days before James is announced as leaving the football club. So obviously we'll have his wages back in the kitty, back in the pot to be able to work with in January and in the summer with FFP. So I agree. We need to do something because the squad depth at the moment is incredibly thin. Martin said too about QPR, Camp Def or Prem quality team, and if it was a league game, we'd have all been made up to get a point from that game, only because it's a cup game that we went out on pens. No shame in that. Interesting. June says, time for Branthwaite to come into the first team. Would you consider Harry Tarrant starting goal? No, I wouldn't, because he's injured for a start, and you've got Begovic and Lonergan in front of him. I think it will be Asmir Begovic until Jordan Pickford returns to fitness, which hopefully isn't very long because Jordan Pickford needs to come back soon. Harry Tara isn't ready, and Jared Branthwaite, to be fair, who you'd have to put him next to Yerry Mina, and I think I'd rather have Godfrey or even Holgate next to Mina, because as I said before, every defender at Everton performs better next to Yerry Mina. Dennis says Anthony had a pretty good game, just needs better first touch. Fair enough. Martin says, speaking truth about Tommy D, mate, he needs a first team regular footballer. He'll come good if given the chance. Let's hope so. Dennis says Tom just needs to go out on loan. The manager changes are hampering his development. Potentially, I hope Gordon gets regular first team footy. We need passion like that. Ran his socks off and probably still gutted, says Martin. Yeah, he was visibly gutted after the penalty. Scored his penalty, really good penalty as well, but he was visibly gutted after that. Which is never great to see, because I thought Anthony Gordon played well last night. Thought he played well. And then Martin says we should give Sims a run out at the weekend. Big lad, and I want him to play in the youth squad, and Blackpool, he's ready too. Well, listen, Solomon Rondon certainly isn't ready to play 90 minutes of football on Saturday, and the assumption is Solomon Rondon will start on Saturday, so it'll be interesting to see who comes on to replace him, whether it's Ellis Sims, whether the manager goes with Damari Gray as a centre-forward again. It'll be interesting. Hope so too, says Dennis. Reminds me of a young Richie, had a good relationship with Dean too. And Sol says, like Groundhog Day every year, yet it still feels as bad. Yeah, spot on, Sol. It still feels as, but never gets easier, mate. It never, ever gets easier. Well, but it's not, in the 22 years of me being an Evertonian, it's never gotten easier. I don't know whether it will ever get easier, but it's certainly never gotten easier in the 22 years of being a Blue so far. Anyway, let's get into the second half. Everton go in 2-1 down. As we said, getting back into the game late in the second half and then conceding just before half time to go 2-1 down. And you're sort of thinking, you know, Rafa Benitez so far in his Everton career has had a good record of half-time team talks, a good record of going in at half-time, you know, on a bad performance and coming out and putting in a much more improved second half performance. We saw it against Southampton, we saw it against Burnley, we even saw it against Leeds to an extent as well, away from home. And you were I think we were hoping for that. I think we were hoping for a much more improved second half performance from Everton. Now, my biggest issue with the second half is that we come out and within 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it was, Andre Gomez takes a corner. Really poor corner, by the way, but gets away with it, cornering across the floor. It's bobbling around in the box, and Andros Townsend fires it in for the equaliser. Now, that was, 5 minutes into the second half? Everton have got the equaliser. Now, obviously, looking back to the game against Southampton in the Premier League on the opening game of the season at Goodison Park, very similar thing happened. Everton went in, 1-0 down at half-time, come out, almost instantly got the equaliser through Richarlison, and then turned it on. Then the confidence levels rose, Southampton's edge dropped, and we went on and won that game 3-1. Scored an extra 2 goals in the second half, and could have had an extra 2 or 3, to be fair. Could have been 4-5-1. Now, when we scored that goal last night, when Andros Townsend smashed that ball into the back of the net a couple of minutes after the second half had started, you were sort of thinking, right, well, I was sort of thinking anyway, I don't know if anybody else agrees, but I was sort of thinking, right, this is the time now, go out there and, their heads, as in QPR's heads, will be down now. They've just conceded, they've gone from 2-1 up at half time, absolutely buzzing. They've just conceded within the opening couple of minutes of the second half. Go out there and utilise this period of momentum that we now have. Utilise this period of sort of, like I said, confidence that we now have from equalising. Their heads will be a little bit down, they'll be a little bit shaken. Go and absolutely pepper them with chances, getting forward, throwing the ball forward, creating chances. Go and take control of the game. And we didn't. We were marginally better in the second half. Obviously, like I said, we brought on Abdoulaye Doucouré and Damari Gray, which wasn't ideal. To be fair, I'd rather have those two players started and had the game won and then come off than having to come on and try and win the game in the second half. So we brought on Damari Gray and Abdoulaye Doucouré, and nothing really changed. Nothing really changed whatsoever. We were more controlling with the ball. We were more confident on the ball, and I think we were more sort of, I don't know what word I'm looking for. I suppose just more comfortable with the ball at our feet, and I think part and parcel of the reason for that is because Andre Gomez went off and Abdoulaye Doucouré come on. But we didn't really get forward and create many chances. We didn't really get the ball in to Solomon Rondon. Obviously, Solomon Rondon went off. Thought he was poor last night. Didn't think he was in the game whatsoever. Granted, he's obviously not fit. Very visibly not fit. Not ready to be starting and playing games of football for 80, 90 minutes. But he's got no choice. As I said with the Luca Dean situation, it's not like we were sitting here saying, right, we'll take Rondon out for this game and then he'll play on Saturday. We had no choice. Now, yes, you might say Ellis Sims should have come in, but maybe the manager doesn't believe Ellis Sims is ready. Let's not forget Ellis Sims is only just coming back from a big injury at the end of last season as well. So he, again, will be nowhere near the level in terms of match fitness. He picked up a really sort of difficult injury last season. So we had no other choice. And you were sort of hoping in that period when you'd equalise so early on and you get that little spike of momentum and you bring on a player like Abdoulaye Doucouré and Demarai Gray. Obviously, the idea and the instruction from the manager was go out and win this game of football now. Go out and you know, they've had their fun in the first half as in QPR. They've had a couple of goals. They've had a decent time. We've got back into it. Now we're going to show who the Premier League side is. We're going to show who the top level team is that are coming to the Championship club. And we didn't. Granted, QPR weren't very involved in the second half either. I think they tired an awful lot. But we didn't take advantage of that. We didn't take advantage of them tiring. We didn't take advantage of them, them sort of slowing down. We almost just sort of slowed down ourselves as if to think, oh yeah, get in, they've slowed down so we can have a little bit of a rest here as well. Like I said, the rest of the second half played out. Nothing much happened. We didn't really get forward and threaten them and create many chances. They didn't really get forward and threaten us and create many chances. It was just a average second half. Demarai Gray come on, couldn't really do much with the ball, couldn't really create chances. Abdoulaye Doucouré come on and yes, okay, battled, he worked hard, but again, wasn't massively effective in the game. Obviously, we made another substitution as well. I can't remember who else come on. Somebody remind me in the comments quick. Who else come on? Doucouré come on, Gray come on, and Michael Keane come on. Didn't he? Michael Keane come on. Should have scored, to be fair. Michael Keane instantly should have scored. From a header from a corner, headed it wide, which was an absolute sitter in my opinion. And then obviously the game ends 2-2 and it goes to penalties. And I don't think, I'm going to go out and say a wild assumption here. I don't think any Evertonian was confident with penalties. I really, really don't. Last the Corinthians says Keane. Cheers, mate. Yeah, just remembered. I don't think any Evertonian, if you're watching in the live comments, now 46 people watching, by the way, if you could hit that like button, it would mean an absolute massive amount to me. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That only takes a second as well. We are still aiming towards 5,000 subscribers. But I don't think I don't think any Evertonian was confident with penalties. Let me know, anybody watching, were you confident when that game went to penalty shootouts? Obviously, various penalty takers step up. Everton scored all 5 of their first 5 penalties. QPR, very similar, scored all 5 of their first 5. Mason Holgate, Michael Keane, Andros Townsend, Anthony Gordon within, I think, the 5. Can't remember who the other one was. Really good penalties. Ben Godfrey stepped up in the latter stages as well. Obviously missed his initially, and then it was retaken, of course. And then he scored the retaken penalty. QPR step up, finished theirs, and then obviously Tom Davis steps up to take what ultimately was the deciding penalty. Missed it. Really poor penalty, to be honest with you. Right at the goalkeeper's feet. Goalkeeper saves it. QPR step up. I think it was Dunn steps up. Buries their final penalty, and QPR win and go through. And again, could the goalkeeper have done better for the penalties, Asmir Begovic? I think he could. I'm not sitting here blaming Asmir Begovic for the penalty shootout defeat, because obviously, at the end of the day, it's a 50-50, and I think it'd be unfair to sit here and put all the blame on Asmir Begovic. But there was a couple of penalties there that he got his hand to, or he got close to, that he should have been doing an awful lot better with, and he didn't. But for me, as soon as Ben Godfrey stepped up and missed that penalty, and then it was retaken, I knew we'd lost that tie. I knew it as soon as it went to penalties deep down. I knew we weren't winning it. But as soon as Ben Godfrey missed that penalty, and even when it said it was being retaken, I was confident he'd scored the retaken penalty, but I just knew that somebody else had stepped up and miss. And it was Tom Davis ultimately. And like I said, disappointed with Tom, not because of the fact that he missed the penalty, but because of his if Tom Davies had put in an unbelievable performance and left us all sitting here going, do you know what? Tom's given himself a real sort of, he's given himself a real argument there for the manager to look at and think, this lad should be playing in the Premier League, this lad's been brilliant. I'd have sat here and said, listen, Tom missed the final penalty, but you know what, he was excellent throughout the game, he was brilliant, he battled, he worked hard, he fought, but he was anonymous for the majority of the game. And that's why I'm disappointed with him, not because of the penalty miss, but because he was anonymous for the majority of the game. And yeah, Everton crash out on penalties ultimately. Couple of good penalties in there. Thought Mason took his well. Thought Michael Keane took his well. Thought Abdoulaye Doucouré took his brilliantly. Anthony Gordon took his brilliantly as well. Great to see the celebration, of course, from Anthony Gordon. And just Townsend took his well as well. But overall, look, it doesn't matter. Without the cup, and it's another opportunity at silverware out the window for another year. Obviously, we've still got the FA Cup. Let's wait and see how likely it is that we'll go far in that competition. Hopefully we don't have to get to a penalty stage. And some people will say, look, this is a blessing in disguise because we've got a very weak squad. We've got a lot of injuries. We weren't able to spend much money in the summer and we didn't need the distraction of a cup competition. But for me, I just think as an Evertonian who has never seen Everton win a trophy, I just think that a cup competition every year, including the Carabao Cup, should be our main priority. And maybe it is our main priority and we just went out because we were awful. But every time we go out of a cup competition, I'm bitterly disappointed. No matter what the situation is, I'm bitterly disappointed every time we go out in a cup competition because it's another chance at silverware gone for another year. It's another year to add to the 25 years or whatever it is, without winning a trophy, and that's just unacceptable for a club the size of Everton. I'm 22 years old. I'm a fully grown adult, a fully grown man, and I've never seen Everton win a trophy in my lifetime. I've seen Everton get to one final and bottle it. I've seen Everton get to a couple of semi-finals and bottle it. I've never seen Everton win a trophy. There's Manchester City fans aged 10 that have seen their club win about 45 league titles. I've never seen Everton win a trophy. So every time we go out, it's horrible for me. Because no matter what the circumstances is, no matter what, the squad depth is saying, and the fact that, we will be better in the league for it and we'll have less fixtures to play, I just can't look past the fact that it's another year potentially without a trophy. Yes, we've still got the FA Cup, of course, but that's much more difficult to win than the Carabao Cup for me. And the Carabao Cup has been an awful competition for Everton historically, an awful competition for Everton over the years. Or the League Cup as it's been for a long time. But it's still horrible to go out on penalties, isn't it? It still is. Anyway, let's get into the live comments then before we finish up. Kev says we haven't done well in the Carabao Cup yet. You're spot on. Glenn says with a paper-thin first team, I think cup competitions are out of the score for this season. Don't worry, Cam. Hopefully this is the floor that we build on from here. Team Rafa, let's hope so. Glenn says peak male form is 25 years old. There you go. So I'm getting close to that. I'm old now, mate. I'm getting old. Glenn says, Rafa has 3 times seasons to get you that trophy, Cam. Let's hope so. Kev says, badly run clubs that stop looking on the pitch. It's a clueless shareholders. Well, look, we are going to talk about the recruitment and the club and this, that and the other at some other point. But like I said, that's a completely different conversation for a completely different video. Martin says, sad news about Derby, but Phil Jagielka is a free transfer. Where are we? Cal says, League Cup is the only realistic trophy for us every season. It's a joke we get knocked out. Well, I get that the League Cup is increasingly more difficult because Man City win it every year, but I agree, it's still the most realistic trophy for Everton. Kev says 5th round tops with the FA Cup. Let's hope not. Jason said the other day we should have played Andy Lonergan. Well, look, if Andy Lonergan had played and not got anywhere near the goals, we'd have all been saying, why didn't we play Asmir Begovic? So I understand it, but Kev says that Begovic couldn't even get a glove on any of the penalties. I thought he got a touch on a couple of them, but there you go. Peter says if the board and manager don't have a clear pathway with regards to the next 4 years or so, then we'll be entertaining championship teams at Bramley-Moore. Last of the Corinthians says, baffles me why we don't have anyone who can take a corner. We don't have anyone who can take a corner, and we don't seem to have anyone who can defend a corner coming in. It's baffling, really. Glenn says Begovic looked like he was in a penalty shootout on FIFA for the first time. Yeah, well, he's already faced the penalty shootout, didn't he, over in Florida, and I think he saved one of those penalties, and that was from the goalkeeper. Jason says, slightly off topic, I wish Wayne Rooney and Derby all the best after going into admin. Yeah, absolutely. Horrible to see Wayne Rooney and Derby going into administration, and what's even more horrible to see, or not even more horrible to see, obviously, because there's a lot of fans that may lose their club and that and this, that, and the other. Jags was top quality situation, but what's more horrible to see, or not more horrible, but you know what I mean, what's as horrible to see is that the Premier League and the FA completely allowed 6 clubs to go away, try and create their own league, walk away from the Premier League, walk away from UEFA, walk away from football as it's known, and they were merely given a slap on the wrist, an apology, and given a shitload of money to not do it again. Whereas a club like Derby, through no fault of their fans, through no fault of their players, through no fault of their staff, are in this situation. What happened, Jamie Carragher, in case Jamie Carragher's watching, which he's definitely not, what happened to not punishing the fans? What happens to not punishing the players? Does that only count when it's the top 6 clubs in the Premier League? Does it? Does that only count when it's Liverpool and Man United and Arsenal? Does that not count when it's the lower league clubs? Can we punish their fans? Can we punish their players? Is that only when it's these clubs that we can't do that? Utter fucking nonsense. It's an absolute disgrace and it's a joke. And football in this day and age is a joke. I'm not in a great mood because Everton lost, but football in this day and age is disgusting. All just corrupt companies trying to make as much money as possible. It's got nothing to do with the fairness of the game. Martin says he's still match fit and hungry to play. Pens are the worst, says Sean. Martin says, no mate, as soon as we equalise, they said we're going to play for Pens and go out. Sad to admit it, but it's what flashed before my eyes. There you go, you were right. Carl says, yes, but I didn't know Begovic was allergic to shootouts. I was not confident, says Glenn. Nico says, hate penalties. Glenn says it's a rebuilding season like American football where you're here because the last 4 or 5 transfer windows haven't paid off. If Rafa can get 10th with the squad, he has done a job in my opinion. Let's wait and see then. Nico says, seems as soon as we get a few injuries, everything starts to crumble. Yeah, invest in the youth. These clowns aren't worth it, says Kev. And Carl says, Ped got it, has had it spot on and said it's just going to be a mere season, same as it always been, £500,000 spent and we're still the same. I don't get my hopes up with an average Premier League side. Hard to disagree with Ped. Really, really, really hard to disagree with Ped on that one. I would agree, to be perfectly honest with you. It's sad for Derby. I grew up with them in a baseball ground. Wish I hadn't mentioned Derby now. Sorry, Jason. Went off on a little bit of a tangent there. But no, you're right. It's awful for Derby. It's absolutely awful. And I just think it's a disgrace how if certain clubs can be punished with point deductions and massive fines and leaving them in situations like this. But if it's Liverpool or Man United, they should have had points deduction. They should have finished the season 4 out of 6. Going down, or 3 out of 6 going down, and the rest of them battling for relegation. But no, that you can't do that because they're the big clubs, and that'd lose a lot of money. Anyway, look, we're gonna finish it there. Then listen, I know it's not been the greatest of positivity streams. There is positives to take from it. I thought Anthony Gordon done well. I thought Luca Dean was much better than he was against Aston Villa. I thought Andros Townsend was great again. And look, without the cup now. Without the cup, we go on to Saturday. Massive game against Norwich. Absolutely massive game against Norwich. We've got to win. Simply, we've got to win. It's 3 points or nothing. You know, nothing less than 3 points is acceptable on Saturday. We will be back with the game preview to that game on Friday. So don't forget to join us for that one as well. And yeah, we will be back tomorrow as well for another video. So join us for that one. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments. Really, really do appreciate it. And if you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. Massive thank you for watching. Really hope you've enjoyed it and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.